was Tom Lumen.
Whoa.
Amazing guy. Sorry. So and I've emailed with him, and he let me show this clip to you. And he was very enthusiastic about us talking about practice, because practice is something that this guy knows a lot about. So if you look back at this small clip and reflect on what this guy was doing, we can see that he uses multiple types of knowledge simultaneously. Zoltan, what does this meet mean?
The what to do.
What? Yeah. Okay. So he uses theoretical knowledge, right? He uses knowledge about guitar. He could, I mean, if we asked Tom Lumen from Budapest to have a one-day workshop about guitar playing, he would probably be able to do that without preparing anything, because he knows a lot about guitars, and he uses a lot of that theoretical knowledge also as he plays guitar, right? He knows a lot about guitars and also about music. Another type of knowledge, I hope, tell me if I don't describe the wrong slide here, but mikor, it means the when knowledge, right?
Yeah.
So this is a type of knowledge that we call conditional knowledge. It's the when knowledge. It's not about something, but about when to use something. So it's like the map. For example, if you're a cognitive psychotherapist and you recognize in front of you in the therapy room automatic negative thoughts about the patient himself, for example, you recognize this pattern, and then you know what to do in a way. So it's the pattern recognizing kind of knowledge. And he also uses, he also uses capacity, right? Am I right, Zoltan? Yeah.
Emotional capacity present. Yeah.
Emotional capacity and ability to be present, because he have automatized what he's doing, and he knows it so well that he can do it very in a way where he's very present as he is doing it. And this is something that we find very often when we do practice on therapeutic skills, that the therapist doesn't become more automatic or more robot in a way, but more present, because when the skill is easier done more effortlessly, it's easier to process all that other stuff that's going on in the room, that makes you able to be present in what's going on. Okay, so that's the presence part. And also he uses procedural knowledge, and this is the how knowledge, right? It's the practical part of any field. For example, surgeons, they have a lot of how knowledge. You wouldn't send somebody you love to an operation with a surgeon who has just read about surgery and watched a lot of video about surgery, and maybe had a lot of supervision talking about surgery, and have done a lot of surgery without the skill building component. We want our surgeon to have practiced very much, right? Like a pilot or psychotherapist. So to summarize, we have multiple systems of knowledge that he uses simultaneously. Now I'm just gonna click in the 4 of them. Yeah. And I think this is important for us therapists also to keep in mind, that we do use a lot of different type of knowledge that supplements our theoretical knowledge, right? We are indeed, I mean, we need all our theoretical knowledge but we are also doers, right? Doers of therapy. The patient relates to he or she relates a lot to therapist behavior, right? How you sit, how is your voice? Do you talk long or short? Choppy sentences or full sentences? Do you seem negative or hostile or present and friendly? Right? So many things that boils down to behavior. And a lot of these things, it's hard to really read about. When we do workshops in deliberate practice, we see when people give each other feedback, they give each other feedback on stuff that it's just impossible to boil down to theory. For example, last Wednesday, I had this workshop here in Norway in a prison where the psychiatric personnel was they were going to skill build confrontations and how to handle confrontations. And one of the feedbacks that was given to one of the therapists there by a colleague was that she can get away with being confrontative because she has this very mild voice and a face that is firm. And this combination of nonverbal language with a mild, the mild and the firm, in her case, went very well with this intervention. So my point is, it's a complex example, but the point is that you get feedback on non-verbal stuff that is really hard to read about. So he uses a lot of types of knowledge simultaneously, and we do too. But the traditional pedagogy or our traditional way of learning in psychotherapy favors a few of these types, but not all, right? So what we talk about is not it's not to get away with all the other ways of learning that we are used to in our field and the culture that we have, but we really need that to add a component. So if you have a look at our traditional learning methods in psychotherapy, there of course are other ways, but three kind of pillars, you know, the main ones are clinical supervision. One of them is clinical supervision, and there's done a lot of research on clinical supervision and the effects of clinical supervision. We invest a lot of time and effort in that. And a main finding is that clinical supervision has a lot of functions and is very important. And these functions are important, but it does not convert to changed therapist behavior. So to put it in a different way, after supervision, the therapist goes back to doing what he did before the supervision. There's, I'm not referring to a cherry-picked example from the evidence here. It's decades and decades and decades of research on clinical supervision that really uniformly show that it's hard to find an effect in therapist behavior of clinical supervision. Still, I emphasize that clinical supervision has a lot of other functions, like being supportive and socializing people into the field and being a place to think, which also is important to think and to be able to think well. But it doesn't. We have to bust the myth about clinical supervision making me a better therapist, because my patients are not noticing that I have had supervision, it seems, right? So we don't want to devalue supervision, but we need to see what we can use it for and what we can't. So we don't bet on the wrong horses here when we want to get better therapists. Another main one is what we call passive learning. We lean a lot to passive learning in the field of psychotherapy. And the passive learning refers to any learning activity where you don't do anything, but where you just receive in a way. So in this picture, we have this. It's from a conference with we see all the IEDTA rock stars here sitting in the picture, and they are attending a really great lecture, right? And they get inspired and they get a lot of input, but also this, despite of all its other benefits, it doesn't lead to changed therapist behavior, according to research. What's also interesting with research is that when we ask people to rate how satisfied are you with this learning activity, this workshop, or this lecture, or reading, or watching video, and we ask them also how skillfully do you think how skillfully do you master this skill now? How good are you at this skill? We find that people are very satisfied with the learning activity, and they feel very improved skill-wise. They think that they get better in doing the skill. But the research can also compare this with the reality, and that's also a very clear tendency in the research found in many studies, that passive learning does not convert to practical learning outcome. So as for me as a therapist, although it's hard to admit, I have to admit that over the many years in my career, my theoretical knowledge has been like this, and my practical knowledge has developed like this, until I found the deliberate practice, and then started happening something. But yeah, we have to bust that myth also, that reading and thinking and reflecting, all these things that we really lean on, it's good for a lot of things, but it doesn't change how we behave in the therapy room. And this is important because the patient needs us to also have a practical learning outcome.
Can I jump in just a bit?
Yeah, please do.
Just to say is my personal experience, mine and of a friend of mine. So the two of us don't make statistic, but what we learned something like 10 or 15 years ago was our golden rule was never apply what you learned in a conference the Monday before, in order to avoid the dropouts.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because when you try to apply what you think you learned,
yeah,
usually the outcome was a dropout.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that was our usual experience. So we ended the conference today too. When we meet at the conference, we end the conference saying, okay, remember, tomorrow, don't apply what you think you learned.
Yeah, because that's it. And also there's a key in this sentence that you say, Luca, what you think you learned.
Oh yeah,
because we got all this theoretical side of learning the skill, but if we don't get to practice it, it's not really integrated into the bones.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to comment the last column, and then I'm done almost. Experience is something else that we really lean on. And I was hoping this too, as a therapist. I was hoping that with years of experience, I will become a better therapist. In some respects, I'm sure I do, or I think I hope so. But the research shows that we are really not good at guessing if we are doing it well or not. Just a fun fact is that almost 100% of therapists think they are among the 50% best or most effective. So it's like statistically impossible. But the point is that research on how our skillfulness develop over the career with experience clearly shows in replications too that we get slightly, as a group, we get slightly less effective throughout the career. There's exceptions, and practice has a lot to do with these exceptions. But also, I mean, there's a lot we can discuss here, but the point is we have to bust these myths. Supervision doesn't necessarily make me a better therapist. Passive learning doesn't necessarily make me a better therapist. And experience doesn't necessarily make me a better therapist. And I can only hope that you take this a good way, because it's not my intention to make anybody embarrassed about how we learn and what we have done or something like that. I just think the therapists, we as therapists and supervisors, need better help in getting something out of our efforts with learning. We do a lot of investment in learning, and to be effectively learning field, because this is lifelong learning, we need good method to learn. So just to summarize, and then to give the word to you, Luca, afterwards. If we look at how we learn, we need the how knowledge, the theoretical knowledge, and the way we learn is great for developing the theoretical knowledge. We learn a lot. You get better, as Tony Rumanier, our colleague, as he put it in his first book, he got better at writing and thinking and talking about therapy. So this is the theoretical knowledge, it's really expanding. And then the conditional learning, we learn a lot about therapy models. We get more and more maps, right? And they get more and more fine in their resolution. But the how knowledge, it's not supported by the way we learn today. So these three traditional learning methods, they don't reliably promote procedural learning. So we don't learn the skills if we continue the way that we do today. So what's also interesting is that when we start doing skill building, Luca will present how. This skill building also will feed back to the theoretical knowledge. So the effective skill building exercises will also make you think about a lot of things, and that's interesting to think about and integrate into the theoretical knowledge. Okay, so that was a quick walkthrough, the main reasons why we are into this field and why we think it's important, and why we need to add a procedural component to the way we learn. I'm not going to try to pronounce these words in your language, but I hope it makes sense.